Good to go.
Yeah, sorry.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Ordinance Committee to order, it being Tuesday, August 20th at 6:40 PM. With me, I have Counselors Bartley, I'm Counselor Bacon, and this is Counselor Lisi to my right. So we have all had an opportunity to review the minutes that were tabled, and so I'm wondering if anybody wants to make a motion on that?
Motion that we accept and approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to reopen the public hearing
So
for
moved.
item 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 2 is a special permit application from the High-End Management Company to operate a registered marijuana retail establishment and a recreational marijuana cultivation facility at 110 Winter Street, Holyoke, Mass., map 031-032, block 01, parcel 004,009. It has been previously noted in public hearing that the application has been amended so that it is only for the cultivation, the marijuana manufacturing at this point. And we had a few remaining questions at the end of the last public hearing relative to sidewalks, fence issue, and maybe that's it. Maybe there was one other thing. So, Counselor Bartley, do you want to start, or do you want me to give the floor to the applicant?
Well, I was hoping we could have Mr. Parent here with us because we had some
Oh,
questions for him.
sure, sure. If our city engineer would like to join us, welcome. So, Counselor.
Sure, if, I'll be happy to start. So I did meet with the petitioner last week, I think it was Thursday, but it might have been Wednesday, and we looked at we walked around the street. It's pretty apparent to me that the sidewalk really serves no utility for the public, that the fenced area, I don't know what happened, but we could ask the petitioner, but I think probably subsequent to our meeting, when did we meet, August 5th? Okay. I think Mr. Andrews could describe it, but it was a very large concrete block that was dropped in the middle of what was a gaping hole in a fence that leads directly to rail tracks. So I'm not really sure when that happened, but it seems like somebody's trying to make some kind of improvement on that site. And I think I heard from Mr. Andrews that their plan is to build a fence, an interior fence that would probably obfuscate the need, well, maybe not obfuscate it, but it would certainly diminish the need to immediately repair the hole of the fence in it, because and Mr. Andrews, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the fence that they're going to install is going to be the width of the street, and that fence will serve to be kind of a gateway for delivery vans to drop the supplies onto the Sally Port. Is that pretty much right?
So it's a city requirement that we have a open and closed gate for our deliveries, and that gate, but we would have to put a fence at the end of the street also, barring people from getting through to the railroad tracks, and I think that ties into Mass DOT, who I believe put that boulder there to prevent people from going onto the railroad tracks.
Yes, I would say it's 4 feet in height and maybe 3 feet in width, and it's a pillar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this massive concrete pillar that's there, and sadly, I tried to jump over it, and that wasn't the healthiest thing in the world. But nevertheless, nobody got hurt.
No video, I hope.
Nobody got. Well, it might be video. If there is. Don't worry. I can hit and throw a baseball pretty well, so I still have some coordination. But as far
Just as a housekeeping matter, can you make sure your mics are on?
yeah.
Thanks.
I was I was very glad I did a site visit because it was quite helpful to me. So the sidewalk is pretty well useless for the public because it's just it's basically just a dead-end street, and the sidewalk really, on the other side, is swamped with invasive species, and I believe that they're going to clear all that out for their clientele. And it's on that sidewalk that they're going to connect their parking lot to the main building. I think that's what I heard him say,
Handicapped
yes.
entrance?
I believe it would be, yeah. So I'm pretty well satisfied from that perspective. Although I did want to hear finally from Mr. Parent as to whether or not he's conferred with Mass DOT relative to the gap in the fence.
I haven't conferred with Mass DOT because, as Councilor Bartley pointed out, there's actually property separation between the property that the city owns and the Mass DOT fence line. That area is actually privately owned. So the city's right-of-way does not go up to that fence. The city's right-of-way stops 20 or 30 feet away from the fence line, and it's owned in combination. The applicant as well as the abutting property owner actually have the rights and the control over that space. So it really is, it's a public issue without a doubt, but it's not a city.
Well,
Because it impacts the public, but it is not the city property that abuts the
So is it the
right-of-way.
railroad that owns it?
The railroad owns the property on the back side of the fence. The applicant owns part of the property on the front side of the fence, and the abutting property owner owns the other piece of the property.
Okay, so is that going to be resolved? I guess it sounds like it has to be resolved between you and Ederon.
We've already reached out to them. We've already reached out to them, and we're just waiting for them to get back to us. But our lawyers have been in touch, so.
Yeah, I think they're in the same firm, so I hope
Yes,
they're in touch. Yeah, so that's kind of should be down the hallway from each other. So I don't know whether or not that needs to be a condition on a permit. That's up to the committee, so that's something you can think about. But it sounds to me like that would be a low hurdle since they're both working at it now. True?
We're waiting to hear back from Ederon. We're not even sure that they're aware that they own that and are responsible for that end of the street. And I'm sure with the condition of the street as it is presently, for anybody to repair that fence and clean that street up, I'm sure they wouldn't, I hope they wouldn't object to it, because it's pretty dismal how it's being kept presently.
Well, that's not just the upkeep, Ms. Andrews. It's I think as we've discussed, it's pretty, clear path, not just for children primarily, so mainly, but apparently all sorts of other adults and workers in that area cut through that fence and make that use that as a shortcut to wherever they're headed. And they're crossing over active rail tracks, very active rail tracks now.
And from that sense, I think it absolutely is in Ederon's best interest to solve this problem very quickly, which we intend to do.
Yeah, so it's tough for me, Madam Chair, we really can't, I think what Ms. Andrews said, that showed me the map the other day when I visited. Was it Wednesday?
Thursday.
Well, whatever, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
I can't, whatever day it was,
Thursday,
doesn't
yes,
matter.
yes, Thursday.
But was it there? Okay. How can we, we can't really make a condition, although I would like to somehow make a condition, but it's tough to make a condition to force an abutter, to make sure the abutter takes a certain action, but condition on their permit. But so I don't know how the chair wants to sort of manage this, but I think it should be addressed somehow.
So I have a question, and then I'll recognize you, Councilor Lisi. So relative to the fence, my recollection was that you were willing to put it up
Absolutely.
from the last public hearing. So it's just basically a question of getting, in essence, permission from the abutter to do it. So it seems to me it would be fair to make it a condition pending permission from the owner. Because you can't control what they say, but as long as they say okay.
I think that's nicely said.
How's that?
I like that.
Councilor Lisi?
I'm just trying to get a little bit more clarification about the fence, because the way that I hear Mr. Parent describe the area, so there's a chain link fence with a hole in it, and that's on the DOT property. And then it abuts,
Right, it
This
separates the
applicant-
DOT property and two pieces of privately owned property, the Ederon property and the applicant's property.
and that's a chain link fence, correct?
I believe so.
And then I hear the applicant talking about the desire to put up another fence that would traverse the street to create essentially a dead end on the street.
Correct.
And is that just for like the aesthetics or your own like legal liability, or is that something that the ordinance is requiring beyond the Sally Port? I'm not clear about where the fence, where your vision of the fence is coming from.
The area of the fence is dictated by the size of the vehicles that need to be contained within the fenced area as a requirement by the Holyoke police chief.
So, but what I understood was that the Sally Port is going to be distinct from the fence.
There's two fenced areas. Essentially, there's the existing fence that separates the privately owned property and Mass DOT property. And then there's the second fence that will be installed to define the Sallyport area. We'll investigate if those tie in directly or if it's a repair of the existing fence plus the addition of the Sallyport fence in coordination with Ederon.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so the Sallyport fence would be a different material, though. It wouldn't necessarily be chain link.
I believe that it is chain link. I believe that the Holyoke City Police Chief likes to have visibility through the fence for safety concerns. They want to be able to see if there's someone on the outside of the fence. But we can work.
I just wanted to add that our security firm is looking at options that fit HPD requirements, but are a little bit more aesthetically pleasing for the neighborhood. One of the options that we've considered is, I don't know the right term for it, but it's sort of like just vertical separation with sort of sharp tops. I don't know what the term is, but it's a lot prettier than a chain link fence, and we've been investigating that option.
All right, and then just in terms of our own ordinances for setbacks and buffers, do you have space between the DOT fence line and where the Sallyport fence would go? Because I think you can have, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can have fences right up to one another. Like, for example, if you were two neighbors and your backyards were adjacent to one another, you'd have your fence, whatever your material is, and the other neighbor would be able to have their fence, but they wouldn't be allowed to go back to back. They would have to be like 3 feet from the property line or something like that.
Right, and what is being suggested here is, and you may actually want to point it out on the map, but there's the existing fence that separates the DOT property, again, the privately owned property, and then the fence that's going to surround the Sallyport. That's probably 20 feet or so away from the DOT fence. And one of the big advantages is it really creates a redundant fence line. So the Sallyport fence was initially primarily there to surround the Sallyport, but I think the applicant is willing to make it a little bit bigger so it would actually serve as a redundant means of preventing people from getting onto the DOT property. And it's, as I said, separated by 20 feet. They're not back to back. They're discrete fences.
Yeah, and is there an understanding of whether or not that chain link fence is DOT property itself? Like, did they put the fence up, and are they responsible for then the repair and maintenance, or is the applicant here and the abutter? Because the way that I'm understanding the situation is like the applicant and the abutter may have like a legal liability if someone gets hurt coming through on their side, but it doesn't sound as if the chain link fence that's there is currently their property. Do we know?
I don't believe that we know for certain, but it does appear to be on Mass DOT land, so we assume it to be controlled by Mass DOT.
So I think anything that the applicant would be doing in terms of the Sallyport is creating the secondary barrier, and that would really be satisfactory to me. I don't think we need to ask the abutter to repair the applicant to repair somebody else's fence.
Are you all set?
Yeah.
I would think the police chief would like the redundant fencing from a security point of view.
But
He's aware of that, right?
the redundant fencing is not a repair to the old fence.
No, but I'm just saying the whole project.
Right, if we did the redundant fencing, we'd have to repair the fence on the backside to provide a
part of
completely
it.
secure area.
There you go.
So,
So,
For the continuity.
yes.
Mhm. All right. Any further questions from the committee? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here from the public who wishes to speak in favor or against or have a question or input on this project? Seeing none. Were there any other remaining open questions that anybody is aware of? All right, so we may have done this before, but rather than doing it not at all, we'll do it twice, okay? So I'm going to read into the record what I understand to be the final conditions, and then if anybody else has any to add, please jump in. So the first through 6 conditions are standard conditions that we have had for, I believe, all of our special permits. 1, that the owner of the building always pay commercial property tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, and local laws for the duration of the special permit. 2, that the business retain a minimum 30% Holyoke residents for non-security jobs. 3, that hiring preference be given to security personnel that are retired Holyoke police or are a retired member of another police department now living in the city of Holyoke. 4, there shall be no marijuana consumption to be allowed on site. 5, there shall be no deliveries of retail or medical marijuana from the site to individual homes, residences, or people. 6, that hours of operation be in compliance with city ordinance, which right now are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. And the additional condition, which is that the applicant will provide a fence to block access to the railroad tracks pending authorization from the abutting property owner.
second.
And so those are the conditions.
Oh,
Again,
do we add that one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just added that, number 7,
Okay.
but we don't have the motion to approve the special permit with, and we need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to amend the special permit with the 7 aforesaid conditions. There's 7. 7, she listed 7, yeah.
Mhm. And the amendment is that it was amended from retail and manufacturing to manufacturing. Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the process is that at our next city council meeting, the recommendation from the committee will be on the agenda for consideration and vote by the full council. And then after that, I believe it's just a matter of it being filed in the clerk's office, right?
Yeah, go have fun with the Cannabis Control Commission.
Right,
Good luck.
Thank you.
right. The adventure continues. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you're,
You want to take up,
pardon?
Madam
I
Chair?
think you're next.
Madam Chair, are we going in order?
Yes, because the next item,
So motion to take number 3 up, is that a public hearing?
no,
Okay,
it's
motion.
actually waiting for legal form. It didn't even need to be on the agenda.
Oh.
So I just want to note it, because it is.
Should I make a motion to take up the table?
Well, it's complied with, just pending legal form at the city council, which we knew.
So do I have to do anything with it? Nothing? Oh, okay, then we'll just,
We did.
we did.
We did. I had it off.
Okay, so,
I had it off, and then with all the revisions, it ended up back on.
all right, so, motion,
It's just now it's sitting there.
well, I can make a motion to suspend the rules and take 4 to 7 as a
Yeah.
package.
Mm-hmm. All in favor?
Aye. Those are the Bob Parent ones.
So, item 4 was filed by Counselor Anderson-Burgos, that a sign be placed on both ends of Monroe Street prohibiting large trucks from using it as a pass-through. Residents have expressed that this creates a danger for children, and that one truck also damaged a power line leading up to a resident's house. Item 5, filed by Counselor Anderson-Burgos, that temporary speed humps be placed on Anderson Avenue, and that a speed study be done on the corner of Sycamore and Anderson. A resident living on Anderson noticed an increase in traffic using excessive speed coming around the blind corner from Anderson to Sycamore from the other end of Anderson, as well as off of Carter Street. She's concerned for the safety of her young child as well as others. Item 6, Counselor Valentin, order that the city engineer evaluate the placement of a four-way stop at the intersection of Locust and Sargent Street, request from residents. Item 7, filed by Counselor LeBron Martinez, ordered that section 86-321, Schedule 1, parking be amended to include the following: on Canal Street to improve parking for DPW and its customers, and there's an attached grid relating to that order. You have the floor.
I have the floor. Okay. The first item number 4, I think I owe Councilor Anderson-Burgos an apology because that hasn't moved anywhere nearly as quickly as I would like. We did the initial study last fall. We got results that were not meaningful in terms of interpreting the number of trucks that went down the street, because first step was we're looking to confirm, could it have just been an isolated incident? We know there was a truck that went down Monroe at one point and took a wire out. It's been reported that it was more than just one truck, but we really want to double check that. And our speed monitoring equipment has the capability to count trucks, but the results we got back were not meaningful. You know, so we need to redo it and figure out how to program the device correctly to get meaningful data. And we have not done that yet.
So the wire was taken out twice.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yep.
So whatever we can do to make that happen.
It needs to be put up to the top of the list, given the amount of time that's gone on since.
Either have the cable or the power line go up higher
Okay.
so that they can allow trucks to go through.
Sure.
But still, there's a lot of children that do play in that area, so I don't even think trucks should be allowed.
Okay.
So would you like it to be tabled at this point?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, so table it and conduct another study or whatever you see fit.
I would say that a month from now, I will have more meaningful information for you than I have today.
Sure, that would
Okay.
work.
I'll second that motion.
Thank
All
you.
in favor?
Aye.
So we will table it and aim for October,
Sounds good.
since we're almost in September already.
I believe it.
No kidding.
I believe it.
Yeah,
But-
don't say
Really?
that, so sore.
You're not kidding.
Okay.
Okay. So item number 5, another order that had been filed by Councilor Anderson-Burgos, was relative to placement of speed humps on Anderson Avenue. And as the committee members know, the first step is typically doing a speed study to see are people driving at excessive rates of speed. We did that study in May, and as the results indicate here, we found that what's known as the 85th percentile speed, which is the speed the majority of the people drive at or below, was 28 miles per hour. And on average, the speed was 23 miles per hour. That result suggests to us that although it may appear, because we all sit on our front steps and we see people driving by and it looks like they're driving fast, was based on an objective measurement of speeds. Vehicles might have been a little bit over the speed limit, but not significantly over the speed limit, such that speed humps would have any really meaningful effect in terms of bringing the speed down a mile per hour or so. So at this point, we are not recommending that speed humps, that we go to the next step, putting in temporary speed humps. And
So could we make a recommendation to put slow down children at play or something like that, those kind of signs, or is that another order that needs to be filed in order for that to happen?
No, because there's no ordinance related to those signs.
I believe you're correct, yes. We certainly can do that, and that may have an effect. There's, it may call some attention to some drivers who might pay attention to the sign. So that certainly could be done.
Yeah, at least some kind of an awareness. I mean, speed bumps, I understand that can be troublesome sometimes, but I think some type of awareness should be posted so that way, drivers can at least see something. There's more children moving into that neighborhood, a lot more.
So are you saying the slow children.
Yeah, those signs that I see once.
We have a standard one, right?
There is a standard, actually, an
Yeah,
industry
So
standard.
a few of those in that general area.
So if we send this to the council through this order, you can act on that, okay?
Well, so I'll make a motion to accept the DPW's recommendation and to order that the DPW install appropriate signage as recommended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Item number 6 is a order that Councilor Valentin had filed last year. We did respond to that order. We placed a larger, there was concern about people not stopping at the stop sign. We did place a larger stop sign. We went from a 30-inch stop sign to a 36-inch stop sign. Our hope is that that has helped people to see the stop sign a little bit better at this point. We then took it the next level to take a look at, does it warrant placing a four-way stop? And one of the basic things you need to look at is accident history. And based on information that the police department provided to us, there have been only 2 accidents at that intersection in the past 5 years, and that wouldn't trigger the warrant for putting in a four-way stop.
So I would enter a motion that this has been complied with.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last item, filed by Council LeBron Martinez. Little bit of background on this is that this, I believe, came out of discussions with DPW staff, primarily the office staff, who typically find themselves, when they come to work in the office, their workday starts at 8:30. The guys that start at 7 o'clock. So what happens typically right now is all the parking spaces in front of the DPW get filled up with people that are parking there from 7 to 3 o'clock, and that the staff members, the office staff, primarily women, have no place to park. So the suggestion here is that there are 7 spots in front of the DPW building at the moment. 2 of them are already in the ordinance table right now. One of them is a handicap parking spot. One of them is a 15-minute parking spot. What this table is suggesting is that we keep the handicap spot, keep the 15-minute parking spot, add a second 15-minute parking spot, because typically if you're having customers coming into the DPW, they turn over fairly quickly. So by actually placing 2 15-minute spaces, most likely you're actually going to make it more customer-friendly, because you're not going to have a DPW guy parked there at 7 o'clock in the morning and occupying that space for the entire day. And then allocating 3 of the remaining spots to the office staff, so that, and just during work hours, just so they have a safe place to park adjacent to the building.
So just a question, where will this, people that work 7 to 3 that have been parking there park?
There is a lot behind the building that
Oh, is that
many
the
folks
issue?
typically park in. There are on-street parking, et cetera.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a
So
valid
it's more
point.
the access to the entry?
Primarily, yes. And to be honest, the office staff are, not that they can't walk, but, having them, particularly during, as you get into the wintertime, for instance, and it's dark when they're shutting down at 4:30 in the afternoon, having some safe parking in relatively close proximity to the building,
Yeah.
we think
And
would be
hopefully
advisable.
everybody's agreeable to this plan?
I believe it was
As a part of the team?
It was put forward by the supervisors union, of which there are office staff as well as foremen involved in there, so.
Okay. Win-win is good. Counselor Barton?
So you're saying we need to have an ordinance so we can have the DPW administration park in front of the building, and we cannot police that among ourselves in DPW? Is that what this is saying?
Without an ordinance to restrict use of those spaces, they are available to the public, to anyone that wants to park there at any time, and there's no legal way to regulate who's parking there. So, is sort of to your question, I think the answer is sort of yes.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we cannot, as a Department of Public Works, talk among ourselves and figure it out, so we need to have a city ordinance to set up parking for DPW administrators and staff. That is, I'm not directing it at you per se, but that is unbelievable. That we can't solve this as city workers, so. I guess it doesn't surprise me, Bob, because we see what goes on this back lot back here. We passed ordinance here to have parking. I think when Councilor Lisi was a chair, I think we passed ordinances to have, of this committee, we passed to set up parking spaces. Never been done. Still waiting for it to happen. But we attempted to do that to sort of satisfy the staff here. Okay, and so the selling point is what? You're gonna add one more public parking spot? I guess that's probably the selling point for me, is that there's one more spot for the public, I suppose. And it keeps the same amount of spaces overall?
Correct, there's 7 spaces there with the way that the striping is at the corners, the 20-foot separation from the street corner, you can fit 7 spaces.
Where do they park exactly right now? Where are the?
Wherever they can find spots on the street, and primarily. And actually what happens is in the daytime when the guys leave at 3:30, the women will go ahead and run out and move their cars to the front of the building so that when they leave at 4:30, they're in again, particularly during the wintertime, in a safer, more secure location.
Well, I mean, I guess crime could happen any time of day, and
Right.
so they're still walking out to the car as it is. So I'm just wondering, I mean, I don't get that part, but, so they're parking kind of on Lyman and on Northeast Street, and just wherever else they can. All right.
And wherever else they can. Northeast is pretty heavily used by
Yeah,
residents
by
typically,
residents,
so,
sure.
yeah. But the front of this building typically, in fact, is not used by residents, even at nighttime if you get out there. So it's really kind of used by DPW primarily during the workday and then not heavily utilized. If this was adopted, these only apply during the workday, so it would be available to residents, but historically, residents haven't sought out these spaces.
All right, and and parking's pretty tight then, I don't have the whole area memorized, but,
It's right across from Amadeus.
yeah, well, Amadeus has their own issue, but they
Right.
just have an off-street lot,
Right.
and then, is it Water Street? Is that Water Street that kind of collides with Lyman? So Water Street would keep heading towards the Willimantic Bridge. I think it's Water, but, so there's nowhere else to park.
There is paid parking available across the street at Hamden Paper.
Say
and
what?
There is paid parking. They will allow people to park in their private lot for a fee.
Wasn't it quite a lot?
Really?
It is a significant amount, yes. I think it's,
Did you say, this is Hamden Paper?
yes.
Who comes in here all the time asking for city services for over by the 391 bridge, and their reply is, okay, from the DPW, their reply is, well, give us fix all our roads over there with public money, but we'll require you to park across it. Really?
I think one correction, that's Hazen's Paper that we've had some
Oh,
of those
Hazen's
discussions.
Paper, okay, so,
Different
but
company.
Hamden Paper is down, and they're affected by this as well.
Yeah, their building is directly across the street, and they have a parking lot, a private parking lot adjacent to their building.
But it would also not be meeting the needs of the staff based on what I've heard you saying, in terms of the convenience and,
Yeah, it would be better than walking all the way around the end of the old trolley barn and trying to find a space on a side
right, but
street
this
somewhere.
kind of
But
solves it
this is the ideal
for
location,
everybody.
yeah.
So this is making this angled parking, right?
No, it's keeping
It's keeping it the
keeping it
same.
exactly as it is.
Okay,
Parallel.
And allocating, 3 to staff, 1 more 15-minute parking space, and leaving the other marked spaces as they are, the
And just
current
from 8 to
15-minute and the current handicap space.
Thank you.
well, I guess we have to do it because it's a public street, so the only way that we can limit it is to do it through this, would seem.
Yeah. if it's the committee and ultimately the council's decision to move
Right.
forward, this is, yes, the way it would have to be
We can't just put
done.
up signs. Right.
Well,
All right, well, does anybody want to make a motion?
Motion that we receive the recommendation from the engineer and adopt.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right,
That's
and
it.
I think that's it, and you're getting out relatively early.
Sam, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Motion to take 8 off the table.
Second.
All
Are
in
we
favor?
doing- Are we doing item number 3 or no?
Well, there was a little debate. So technically, it didn't need to be on the agenda because we have already disposed of it.
Okay.
So I just wasn't sure if we needed to take it up to say it's pending, we're just waiting for legal form at the next city council meeting, or if we can just sort of ignore it because it was redundant, you know? So I think the sense was to ignore it.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
Marcos wasn't in the hallway or something like that.
Yeah, and so I put a note awaiting legal form, so, yeah, because we had closed the public hearing and sent it to council and already, so, or, I mean, it was in the ones waiting disposition at the last meeting,
Yep.
so. All right, so, on the motion to take up item 8, all in favor?
All right.
So item 8 was filed by Counselor Bartley, ordered that section 86-3022, Schedule 1-AC3 be amended to amend the parking fees for special events in the city. Counselor Bartley?
Yeah, so we had, we passed this almost unanimously 6 years ago, and it allowed for us to have paid parking in the city parking decks for certain events. But as time has gone on and we've seen, we just have a stagnant fee. And in speaking with the law department, it seemed like if we, I mean, I don't want to pass this tonight without seeing it in legal form, but I'd like to recommend that we put in legal form and pass it at the next ordinance meeting. So I think if I remember right, Attorney Barnes, we were, this would allow some flexibility to kind of adjust the fee for parking. I think that's, do I have that right? It's been a while since we did this, so had this discussion. But I think this, by amending this section, that allows the Public Works Superintendent to, I think our fee is $5 now per car for special events, and this will allow, I think the going rate is different now for at least Road Race Day, and so it might allow for an amended fee schedule if the superintendent felt that was warranted.
So what would the amendment be accomplishing, giving that authority to the superintendent at all times?
Yeah, because right now it's in an ordinance, it's $5, and while that's a reasonable fee, I think that everybody else around that deck is, I think, at a different rate. And when I was going around last year, I mean, I think, well, somebody was like charging $20, which, well, I'm not, they actually had cars, and I was shocked. But nevertheless, it seemed to me like an opportunity for us to maybe to leave the flexibility that I think is probably warranted, and to let the superintendent determine the fee. And if we actually do have a parking commission one of these days, maybe we could amend it again to have them set it, but right now it's a superintendent, so.
Would you want to keep any minimum?
Right, I suppose, I hadn't thought about that. I suppose that would make sense to have a minimum fee, and then allow the superintendent to adjust it as he or she saw fit. I would think that would be, that'd be helpful. I mean, I really hadn't, it's pretty straightforward. I really hadn't given a whole lot of thought other than to allow flexibility, but I think you're probably right to say, keep it a minimum. But I don't think it would go lower than $5, but sure. So keep the ordinance at a minimum, and then allow some flexibility. But I just so we don't have these little battles at city council, I'd rather just see it in writing. at this level, and then we all agree, and we're all good to go, and so, leave it at that. So that's my thinking at this point.
Anybody else have any input or thoughts? All right, so the motion at this point would be to refer it to legal, to come back to committee with
What-
language to that effect? Are you,
Yeah, whenever she's ready, and she can coordinate that with, the law department can coordinate it with you, so
just let us know?
I don't think there's any rush.
So that's your motion?
That is a motion, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll just motion to table it for now, and,
Referred to legal
Yeah.
and tabled.
yeah, motion to table.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take number 9 off the table?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 9, filed by Council Murphy, ordered that the contract with Zip Cars be reviewed to determine why the city is not receiving any revenue from this enterprise and what can be changed to make sure the city receives an appropriate payment for allowing this company special parking privileges downtown. So,
Well, Madam Chair?
Council Bartley?
So I think what I referenced this, well, first of all, do we have a contract with,
I think they were just given the spaces.
right, so but so through the chair to legal, is there any kind of agreement, any verbiage we have?
So I've been looking into it. I've reached out to, the issue here is a turnover in the law department. So the last thing I found is from 2014, but I don't have any updates from then. So I don't know if I'm missing something. We're on a hunt for what is actually in place right now. So I'm gonna reach out to Zipcar directly and see if we can just start a discussion, because whatever from 2014, clearly there's nothing in place right now that I'm aware of. But that's not to say there can't be, so.
So if
I can explain it. So if, may I?
sure.
So there was never an ordinance passed on that. So there's no ordinance in the ordinance book. So the former DPW superintendent, at the direction of the mayor, put up 2 signs for preferred parking for Zipcar in front of Veterans Park. So we had discussion here about it, and
I believe city council actually voted to have them removed,
yeah,
but they never were.
I don't recall that part, but I wouldn't, I think I filed orders maybe to that effect, but I don't remember how it all panned out. But I know we had discussions about it, so there's no ordinance in place. But I remember there was a I don't want to say it was a press release, but it was kind of an announcement in Veterans Park with Zipcar people there, and the mayor was there, I was there, and just happy that they're in Holyoke, but unbeknownst to me that they were going to have 2 parking spots on a public street and not have it passed by ordinance, and we had Mr. Fuqua in here, and you know, it didn't seem to register. So I mean, I think at a minimum, we should have an ordinance allowing this to happen.
And a contract.
Well, and something,
Well, there's two
an
separate
agreement
things, for
with,
sure.
an
Right,
agreement with
but
Zipcar.
to get paid for the use of the public.
Agreement with Zipcar, to reimburse the city for
Right.
use of those public spaces.
Right, because taxpayers have to pay to park,
I mean, I'm
right?
yeah, I mean, especially with an area like that, that's really, I mean, you see how tight the parking is at the Holyoke Health Center. It's really tight. And then,
And for the
never mind
buses.
the events at Veteran Park, never mind all the residents around there, or never mind when there was a coffee shop and students going into HCC, and then the convenience store on the corner. I mean, they're taking up 2 spots that are, I mean, Zipcar's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm not blaming them, but I'm just saying, they're a big company, they can afford to pay for it, or they can find their own property to park on, but it shouldn't be a public way without some kind of a direct fiscal benefit to the city of Holyoke. So that's my take.
Counselor Lisi?
Thanks. So I hear there's actually 3 different issues at hand. Like one is the signs, and we can figure out whether or not we want to have signs there, and they would need to be there by ordinance. And so like that's one issue. I hear Crystal saying that we can't discover a contract. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we have or have not been receiving payments from Zipcar. Do we know if we have been receiving payments?
I don't know. We just started looking into this. When I saw it come up on the agenda, I started digging.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And so did we check
maybe.
at all with like, I
I
think it would be the treasurer or the auditor?
I believe the auditor would know of any revenue coming in from them.
Well, we
I don't think
have
there
a
is one.
contract.
I
Doesn't
think,
They can't identify a contract.
yeah, if I may, I think Council Murphy assumed there was a contract.
Okay.
And so he referenced it in his order, but I don't think there ever was one.
Oh, in a normal government, there would be.
Right, right, right. So,
So I think there's a lot to kind of follow up on here.
right now, I think it would probably be in order to table it pending further discovery of any action. But then also, we would request that there be a contract. Or there would perhaps need to be a separate order filed because his order is really just focused on money, revenue under the contract. Council
Well,
Bartley?
I'd like to I will make a motion that we refer this to legal and we get a legal opinion on this, because I think we have to be given professional advice before we take
Okay.
any votes.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we know more precisely where we stand. Okay.
So whatever time you need, Crystal, we need 2 months or something?
Well, you're just going to contact them and figure out like where things are. And then I think another email needs to go out to the auditor to figure out if we're receiving anything, have received anything, when it started, when it stopped, if we were ever
Somebody just
receiving
says
anything.
No contract, no money. So, and then,
Yeah.
so theoretically, if it's zero and no contract,
Then we just trash the whole thing, right? Or we give them an
Well-
opportunity to come to the table with a contract and with some revenue for the city.
or we ask for the spaces to be removed
Right.
because they're not there legally,
Right,
which
so there's,
I think already happened in 2014 or 15, but,
I think we did, I think the city council did remove them.
but they never did physically get
No.
removed.
No, we didn't, we might take a vote,
But I think
Rebecca,
we did vote on it.
but the signs are absolutely there.
You'd be legal.
Okay, so,
So
motion
it's,
to, motion to table and
Okay.
pending further information.
Yeah, second.
do you want me to go to October with this, Crystal, or September? October, okay.
October sounds good. It's coming. We know it's
All
coming,
in,
don't we?
all in favor?
Aye. Motion to take number 10 off the table.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Item 10, filed by Counselor Lisi, ordered that Section 62-37, hours of operation for peddlers and/or solicitors be amended. So Counselor Lisi?
Thank you. This came due to some conflicts that were in the hours of operations for peddlers and solicitors relative to other areas of the city ordinances, and I think that Crystal had a draft copy of how to correct this and make everything kind of dovetail with one another.
Do we have a draft?
You don't have a draft? I think you do have a
It
draft.
came up because we were talking about providing hours to somebody here for, I think, a special permit, and
You
I
were
mentioned
setting
that
A
our
street
ordinance
vendor.
was not
Yes.
within those parameters, so we can change it. It's just whatever you all want it to be, and I can amend it. I mean, it's a simple legal form. It's just amending the hours that are already in this section.
Right, so my recollection is we were actually setting hours as a condition of the special permit, and you noted that we were exceeding the ordinance.
Right.
So, how much of a challenge would it be to simply say that we want to make the hours match for the approvals that we've given?
I think we wanted
You have
to
to
be
know
till
all
like
the-
7 PM or something like that.
Have to
But
know
I
all the
think-
approvals, so
I
I mean,
think
you could
we've
almost
Gone,
not have hours considering everybody comes in here for a special permit anyway, so it almost seems redundant. If you're limiting their hours within their special permits, we don't necessarily need an ordinance for hours.
so we don't need to state hours. Oh, well,
I
that's
don't-
good.
I may be missing something. I don't know if peddler solicitors, wouldn't have
Oh.
a special permit off the top of my head.
Oh, no, they would. They would have a special permit.
I would assume. I'm trying to think of an instance where they may. not, but
But right now, it's limiting them till like 5 or 6 o'clock, right? And we've been approving them till 8 o'clock or something like that.
Well, we've been,
Till sundown.
well, no, we've gone beyond Sunday, we've gone to various hours on,
Right.
on many of them, but, I
Right.
mean, but a lot of them, they don't want to be there till 11 o'clock at night, they don't, they have no interest in
No,
that.
but would your idea be to just eliminate the hours in the ordinance? Or to set them but just make them broader?
Just set it by special permit, like we always do. Yeah, that's, I'm just suggesting it, I'm not saying.
As,
That's fine. We could eliminate them altogether. I mean, it's kind of nice to just say, here are the hours, and not have to, pick and choose who's getting to go to 7 or 8, and that, have it very standard and not even have to like discuss it. But
That's true, too.
I thought that you had sent me. I thought you had sent me a draft. No, you had just sent me the draft of the order that you filed under my name. Thanks.
okay, so which way do you want to go? That it
She
would be
says
amended?
it's easiest to delete. To
Oh, and just have it be set under the special permit?
I mean, then you're not contradicting yourself.
Right.
So can we just see, can we see that language? So I'd like to make
Yeah.
a motion, put it into legal
Oh, no,
form
no,
to
no,
that
no.
effect, and send it back to us.
It would just delete section 6237, and
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an
Oh.
A, B, C, or D in there, but it would be whatever that one, I think it's one sentence.
There's one sentence for hours.
Oh, and just to
Motion.
delete
It says so it's unlawful for peddlers to solicit before 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m.
Oh, yeah, motion to delete that, because we amend that all the time.
right.
So just delete that, and we can, we set it
But
by
do you
special.
want to have
Delete
like
that.
a 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. or something?
What I'd like to do is just
Just
say,
delete
delete
it.
that and say to be set by special permit of the city council. That's what I'd like it to say. That's my motion.
But the other question is, do all peddlers and solicitors need a special permit from the city council?
Those that
So
do,
far,
okay, fair enough.
So
Then those
far.
that do, the hours will be set by special permit.
And then those that don't still,
they're still
There's-
out there.
They wouldn't be subject to.
Right.
I mean, I think they're all subject to special permit by
I
city
If I
think
may,
council.
in some
we
ways we
could,
wa-
we could do both, so we could say, as set by special permit, if required, all others shall be between whatever hours you,
So motion, put that into legal form and come back to us, and we'll look at it and we'll figure it out.
But so if there are all others, do you want to keep it 8 to 6 or make it 8 to 8?
I would say 8 to 8
okay.
All right?
or 8 to
so-
9. I think actually the Jehovah's Witness case that talks about the ability to go door to door and things like that sets 9 p.m. as the end of the threshold for when you can talk to people about your political beliefs door to door.
I thought we just said we were gonna put it, no hours on there, we're gonna set it by special permit.
Well, but
But
then,
there's some that don't fit under the
special permit?
the special permit requirement, where they're only getting special permit because they're using the city property.
The city vendors, the
Right.
trucks.
But there's
Food
other
trucks.
people that do soliciting, like Jehovah's Witness, they go door to door.
Are they getting a permit?
No, but they are still allowed to go.
Under the ordinance.
No, I
the
thought
ordinance.
Attorney Barnes said
Well,
that
I
if
mean,
it's subject
That's,
to.
yes.
Like I
that's a-
said, I couldn't think off the top of my head, but that is true. You would have door-to-door salesmen, technically, that wouldn't come in for a permit, but they would still be able to do that.
Yeah, like there's a guy going around selling magazines currently,
And he could be
and
knocking.
he's protected by federal law to go till 9 p.m.
That's probably why we had it ending at 6.
Well, if he's protected by, well, we can't supersede federal law,
I bet
so
you
why
they're
do we?
protected by freedom of speech anyway. Try to enforce
I mean,
that in
let's-
Massachusetts.
Well, let's take a look, I'd like to refer it to legal and for appropriate language, and we can look at it, and
Yeah, if you want to just give some guidance around if everybody's coming in for a special permit or not, and who might not, and what makes sense, given that some folks have a right to go door to door.
Yeah, because 9 o'clock's kind of late.
9 o'clock is
to
what
go
it-
door to door.
9 o'clock is the federal law, at the end of the hours when you can go door to door.
Right, but can we be more strict?
No. In that case,
No, because it would be limiting it.
Right,
So we could say you could go to
Right.
10, you could say 11.
right, but not less than. So our ordinance has been out of order anyway.
Good thing we cleaned it up.
there we go, cleaning up the ordinances. So.
All right, so the
is to refer
motion,
it to legal for legal language and then come back to this body for review.
so you want us to say, all right, so there's a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Crystal, you want us to say October again and have an October
Oh, yeah.
fest?
This will be October surprise. I like the Oktoberfest.
All right.
October surprise.
All
Okay,
right, and then a motion to table, second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that
All
it?
right, so we did a lot of tabling and one special permit, and a couple
No,
traffic
passed a few
ones.
things.
Yep.
All set. Motion
Thank
to
you all.
adjourn.
Thanks. And this was just, leftover from the other meeting, so.
Yeah. Second for that?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I still think we get the trophy for the hardest working committee.
Oh, very good.